Hi everyone. Welcome to the third GSMO meeting of the semester. Um, if you're coming in from the waiting room, just scan that QR code to sign in. Um, our topic for today is marketing, and this will be posted on the YouTube page. So if one of your friends couldn't make it because we switched it to Monday tonight, just tell them to check it out on YouTube and they'll be able to catch up. So a reminder, we didn't get any this week. I know that things are really busy with midterms and just like the middle of the semester, but um, if anyone has like a shout out for another member in GSMO or themselves, feel free to just submit that to the Google form. It's posted in Whitley, which we'll get into in a second. So yeah, and if anyone has a shout out right now, you can raise your hand and come off mute and talk about it. Okay, we'll just continue then. The next slide is a reminder to join Whitley. We've gotten really good feedback and a lot of participation, which is like going really well. Like we have different channels to post LinkedIn's and also different topics. We're gonna slowly phase out of the GroupMe. So tell your friends to join the Whitley because like eventually they aren't going to be able to see anything on GroupMe because there won't be anything on GroupMe. This is just like a screenshot of what we have going on where we'll be posting things. This is the QR code if you aren't in it. Yeah, just scan that. And then the next thing, okay, so since we're doing a marketing meeting, a lot of people have kind of reached out to me and their interest in Blue Shirts, which is the student volunteer / internship program that UF offers for the marketing for the Florida Gators. I'm a Blue Shirt. This is my third semester. And just a quick run through, if you guys are interested in joining, it's a really great way to kind of get your feet wet in terms of working in the sports industry. And you participate at every type of sporting event in like a regular non-COVID year, and you help with setting up in-game promotions and different marketing materials to be passed out, and then tear down. So if you've ever been to any UF game, you see us in the blue polos and the khakis, and we're just there to kind of make the fan experience as best as it could be. And it's a really good way to kind of learn how to get creative in the marketing space and practice and network with other people. And if you're interested in joining, there's an application. I think that it's most common that people get accepted right before a new semester, but with the semester going so fast and us leaving to spring break or winter break in a few weeks, you can reach out to Lauren, who's the new head of Blue Shirts. And one of our guests today, Steven, was our old boss, but he just got a new job. So he'll tell us a little bit about that in a few minutes. Brian Avery isn't here, but just some SPM department updates. Explore Gator to Gator. It officially launched. It's just another way for you guys to network. And also for those that are sophomores, juniors, or seniors, we all know that Craig kind of left this year, and now taking his place are two people instead of one. So his position was split. Half of his position, which is the outreach and engagement part, is Brian Avery, who is our advisor and you guys have seen. And then Shelly Lyle is the career coach. Josh has met with her a few times. If you want to say a little bit about what she does.
Yeah, so I mean, she's within the college. She advises for both undergrads and grad students. So she's getting familiar with the different programs. She used to work in the University Athletic Association, so she has a lot of contacts. She's there for you when you like need to look for internships, look for field experience in those upper level classes when they're coming up, because you have one semester and then one the next. So she's a great person if you have contacts, if you're not sure which side of the industry you're looking to focus on. She'll help you figure out what you want to do. So definitely reach out if you have any career related questions.
Cool. Okay, last announcement is that I was approached by the dance marathon team asking if GSMO would want to have a team for dance marathon. Um, this could either mean that like we just fundraise and not a lot of people dance, which is like the standing part that everyone I'm sure has heard about. But just wanted to throw that option out there. I've done dance marathon before. This is going to be my 3rd year dancing. So if you guys would want to join up for a GSMO team, that's really would be something we could definitely do. And I'm going to put a poll just to see the general interest of everyone, just for like, it's super quick. So just fill that out if you're interested. And we'll take it from there afterwards. It's like 5 people that need to do it. Cool. All right. Yeah, we're getting interest. So that's definitely we can look into something we can look into. I'll get in touch with the person that reached out and kind of get back to you guys. And another thing we're going to be doing with that is we are going to need a representative for GSMO that'll go to all the DM meetings and then kind of relay the information back to the board. So that's like another like soft board position that will be opening up if you are interested in DM and looking to get involved in GSMO. And then which brings us to tonight's panel. So our panelists tonight come from 2 different areas in the marketing world within sports. One of them is Steven Donlan and the other is Neil Horowitz. Steven, just like I mentioned before, worked for the Florida Gators marketing department and recently left. So he'll kind of explain to us what his new role is. And then Neil works for product marketing at Greenfly. So I'm gonna do speaker view, which I like recommend you guys do too. So you can kind of focus more on the speakers. And if Neil and Steven want to come off mute, we're gonna get started with questioning.
What's up, everyone?
Steven, are you good with technical difficulties? It's all working for you?
Yeah, it's all working for me now, so I'm all good to go.
Cool. So welcome, guys. Like, we're really excited to have you both and kind of give the marketing perspective. It's an area we haven't really discussed in our meetings. So to kind of start things off, if you both would describe your role and the organization that you guys work for, that'd be great, because I'm not sure if people are really familiar with like Greenfly and KSA.
Steve, why
So
don't you
I'll let Neil go first.
Okay.
Neil, you can go right ahead.
You're technically on home turf anyway. You know, you're the actual Gator in the room. So
Yeah.
I'll give you a little bit of background of where I've come from and what I've been doing for the last year plus at Greenfly. So I started out on the property side, the team side. As you guys I'm sure know, being in GSMO, the sports space is much more than just working for a team. But I started out working for a couple NHL teams. So go hockey. Hope you guys are Panthers fans or Lightning fans down there. And doing social media in the early days. I'm a Stone Age person when it comes to this stuff. So I existed before Instagram did. So that's aging myself a bit. But started out coming up in more of the content side, and kind of grew up with the space, thinking and got more involved in the marketing side as well with digital and social, whether that was analytics or planning out campaigns, working with sponsorships. After a couple of stints at 2 different NHL teams, worked my way to my last company, which was Hopscotch, which did mobile apps for and loyalty programs for sports teams and live events. We did most of our work was in college athletics. So I worked with a lot of college athletics departments, but not the Gators, because Bruce Floyd wouldn't work with us, I guess. Um, but that was a great opportunity to sort of work with a ton of different types of sports clients, whether it was college or minor leagues or just different sizes of colleges based on the resources and what they were trying to accomplish, whether that, and this is probably where Steven can talk all day about who they're trying to reach, whether it's students or donors or young alumni or whoever it may be, and trying to drive both engagement as well as working with the Learfields and IMG colleges and Fox Sports colleges of the world to activate sponsors in the digital and social space. So coming up with pitches and helping them to measure campaigns. And now at Greenfly, it's a different type of sports of tech startup. We have a heavy footprint in sports. We also work in entertainment, as well as politics and other verticals. Basically, what we do is we do mass distribution as well as mass collection of content. So in the sports space, the easiest way to describe it is when the NBA finals were over and the Lakers won, and Kyle Kuzma wanted to get pictures of his celebration of him in the game and with the trophy and whatnot. He used the Greenfly app because that's how all the NBA players get their photos automatically. And we plug into Getty Images, for example. We plug into their other photo systems, such as a platform called Photo Shelter, and automatically pull in all that content and then distribute it into personalized galleries. So that's how a Chris Paul or a Kyle Kuzma or whoever can go to their personal gallery, and without the NBA doing anything at all, they have those photos curated there for them. So we also work with Major League Baseball doing the same thing. And on the other side of the coin, we get content back. So when the NBA teams were trying to record PSAs, for example, around the pandemic, they were using Greenfly to submit all those videos directly back to the teams or to the league. It's a really oversimplified way of putting it, but that's what I do now. So I'm focused on our product marketing, which is really helping our customers use our product better to accomplish their objectives, as well as thinking about how we can portray our product to prospective customers, whether they're in sports or entertainment or whatnot. So I'm typically thinking about what's important to a CMO of a sports team or a sports league, what's important to the everyday social media manager or director of marketing as well, and then also taking that into other spaces, which we'll get into, of what it's like to do market research in sports and beyond sports as well. So I can talk a lot. Delilah knows this from talking to me. So I will kick it over to Steven now.
Awesome. Thank you.
Just like Neil, I was also born before Instagram too, so I'm in that same space. But hi, everyone. My name's Steven Donlan. Like Delilah said, I used to work with her with the Blue Shirt program. Prior to all of that, though, I was, just like you guys, I was an undergraduate student looking to get into the sports world. So I did a few internships. I was at the University of New Hampshire doing internships with their marketing department for 2 years. Oversaw men's hockey and football when I was there, as well as gymnastics in the student section. So those were my 4 main priorities throughout my 2 years there. I also had an internship with New Hampshire Motor Speedway, which is the NASCAR track, for a year. I got to oversee a lot of things with the corporate sponsorship department. So I was very involved with everything. And as you can tell, corporate sponsorship is a very big part of NASCAR, just because every single car has about 100 stickers on them. And also in that time too, I was in minor league baseball for 2 years. So I was very involved with the local team here for the AA Blue Jays minor league baseball team. So all of that was an undergraduate. It led me to a position at the University of Maryland, which is actually my background right now, because I'm kind of in transition from one job to the other. So not a whole lot going on behind me, but Maryland was a very good experience too. I was involved with the men's basketball team as the number 2 there. I also was the number 1 for baseball and women's soccer. And I was very involved with lacrosse as well from time to time, as well as football too. So all of that being said, it led me to Florida, where I met Delilah, and I saw a couple other potential blue shirts, or some blue shirts in here as well. But yeah, at Florida, I was the marketing coordinator. So I was there for 3 years. I recently left, but when I was at Florida, I oversaw baseball marketing, as well as soccer, swim and dive, track and field at one point, cross country, women's basketball at another point, and then most importantly, the Blue Shirt program. So it's kind of what Delilah has spoken on a little bit. Got a good chance to work with a lot of different students that have gone on to great careers in the NBA, NHL, NFL. They've kind of gone all over the place. They've been very successful. So I would highly recommend that program. Lauren is somebody that came in last year and is kind of taken over the role now, as I've left as of last Monday, so a week now. My new role, though, is a little bit closer to home. So I'm from New England. It's in Rhode Island, so I'll be the client services manager for a small marketing agency. And how it's still connected to sports is that I will be overseeing some sports marketing as it pertains to Pepsi Gatorade, their contract with international soccer players. So I'll be focusing on their branding, making sure everything's correct with their clients, make sure all the contracts are signed off on, make sure everything's good. And occasionally I have to go over for some photo shoots and video shoots to some foreign countries whenever COVID gets lifted. And then I'll also be connected with the Athletic Trainers Association, so handling their marketing efforts as well. So just a little bit about me. I can talk forever, as Delilah knows. But yeah, don't want to take up the whole time.
Awesome. And for everyone that's just running through Steven's background and working in blue shirts and him mentioning where everyone kind of goes on to work, it's just a reminder and kind of a message that like everyone in the program kind of does with this like great start and great experience end up in a role that fits them and their career trajectory. So that's another reason why I would recommend taking up blue shirts if you want to get experience in marketing. Okay, so moving on to the next question, it's kind of hard to bring up or have a panel without kind of bringing up coronavirus, as it's been super impactful to everything, especially the sports world. So how has your guys' role kind of changed with Corona? Steven, I know that you haven't started your new role, so maybe if you can just reference what was happening like with the Gators and everything.
Yeah, so as you can tell, we're obviously not full capacity at sporting events, so it was a little difficult this year. So our role has kind of changed into the virtual space a little bit more. So on game days, we had some virtual fan cams. We were trying to do a lot of grassroots marketing this year just to kind of keep our presence in the community, trying to make sure that everybody is still well aware that when we have sports that we're going to have a really good season up ahead of us. Our baseball team was number one. Our gymnastics team was going to compete for a national championship. So most of the planning was for the spring when I left, because the fall is kind of one of those limbo phases right now where we don't know how many fans are going to be in attendance at volleyball for the entirety of the season. I know right now it seems like it's a small amount, but for the entirety of the season going through the spring, still up in question. So that's kind of how our role has changed a little bit at Florida. It was a lot of planning for things that you couldn't really plan for. So in the past, we would make our marketing plans for the soccer season back early in March, all the way through July, and then start executing from August to November. This year, we didn't know if we were going to have a season. So a lot of it was just planning for what we could. And most of our job is, you know, Delilah, I think I saw Isabella in here as well, is bringing large groups of people into the stands and then entertaining them. Obviously, we can't do that this year, but we have to still entertain the people that do come for the limited amount of fans that we have. So it is kind of a learning as we go process. But as far as the Blue Shirt program is concerned, it seems that everybody was getting along. They're valuing the importance of networking. They're trying to take advantage of the time that we have now before we get into the heat of having a lot of games. In the spring, there's a lot of crossover. So there could be a gymnastics meet plus a couple baseball games and a softball game all in the same day. So they're just trying to incorporate a lot of learning experiences now so that they can actually put it into play in the spring. So a lot of our day-to-day has kind of changed and shifted in the way of planning instead of executing at this point in the season, which we're normally accustomed to.
How much did you guys really focus on what you could do outside of attendance, whether it was virtual events or donor engagement through virtual means, or even on game day itself, what that second screen experience could look like if all your resources are, I mean, I saw some schools do some interesting stuff. Some schools are kind of step back. I mean, obviously resources are a question, but how much do you guys focus on that outside of, hey, we can't have people in the stadium right now. We can't have people come to our soccer games right now. So this is what we can do.
Right. Yeah, that's a good question too. I mean, there's a lot of different departments. Like you referenced Bruce, he's been working nonstop with Forrest as another person in the marketing department to make sure that there's actually good content out there. Working with our SIDs, our communications departments, for anybody who's unfamiliar with that term, is just creating good content plans, trying to get as much alumni involvement as possible. Our swim and dive content this year really jumped into that because we have a lot of Olympians. So it's a really good avenue to kind of structure our program and continue to build off the success model that we have and show to our recruits that are looking at our content throughout this time when they can't be recruited that we still have a very successful program. We have a lot of very successful alumni as well. So outside of the fan experience, we're doing as much as we could. And it seems as though a lot of it's social media based because it has to be at this point. A lot of grassroots marketing efforts just have to be very limited as to what we can do. Delilah knows that as well, as far as coming in the office, simple as that. We still have to limit how many people are in the office to actually execute some of the things that we need to get done. So there's a lot of people looking for things to do in uncertain times, but it's also a great opportunity to really take advantage of during this limbo phase when we don't normally have this time off. So it's definitely something that's been a breath of fresh air.
I'm sure you guys, everyone will be teeming with ideas when sports and live events do come back. I mean, it's one of my favorite parts of college. That's why I love following like Chris Grossi up at Penn State and all the stuff that he did back at Georgetown as well. Just love that stuff.
Yeah, I know Chris very well from my time at Maryland, so he's a good guy. He's very interesting. There's a lot of people out in the college landscape too that are very interesting. Adam Ahern up in Wisconsin is a good guy to know. I think you guys have talked to Dylan Del Rosso for ticketing. He's been very involved with a lot of things too from the Jets. Sorry if you hear my dogs. But yeah, there's a lot of people in the industry that have actually done a lot of really good stuff during this time.
Awesome. And then Neil, if you kind of want to get into your routine, or there's probably not a routine because it's working in sports, but just kind of how your role has changed with COVID.
No, totally. It was I'm not going to say it was fun, but it was kind of different at times because obviously if we are primarily distributing content from live games, there is a lot less content to be distributed when there are no live games. And so our customers look to us. One is our platform is really quote unquote sticky, meaning that it's hard to replace us. So customers weren't going to, when it comes time to like cut budget, which obviously a lot of people in sports were doing, Greenfly was not really on the cutting room floor because they really can't exist without it almost when it comes to distributing content to and from players. But what we did see was a lot of working to get content back. So our platform is about pushing content out. Like in the college space, one of the biggest players is a company called Influencer, INFLCR, if you guys want to look up that. Open Doors is another one that does that content distribution. But what we do is we also pull in all that content. So you can send a script, you can send an idea, you can send another video to a player and say, hey, can you react to this like Michael Jordan style, Last Dance style? So we saw a lot more content collection. So it was, for example, like getting stuff from the strength coach, for example, like, hey, can you show our fans how to do an exercise at home or how to do a routine at home and stay in shape? Or was talking to some of the dance team and getting them to do choreography for TikTok, as you may imagine there as well, or getting stuff from the mascot. So you had all these different sources of content that could help you keep the fans engaged, and also pulling in fan content, UGC, but in a more kind of relationship-based style. So we had some more ambassador programs pop up with, hey, we want to connect with our super fans, connect with our strongest fans, and get some fun content from them, whether that's stories or fan caves or cool memorabilia. So that was also, so it was a lot more pulling in content and having the rest of the team, players included, help to tell that story because the games weren't around to do that. And also what was fun for me is and I got to put my social media cap back on. Really, it was, we had a lot of customers saying, hey, what are ideas? What are other teams doing? What are ideas that you have? So we put together a lot of materials to help spread ideas, help spread best practices. We also saw some cool stuff on the relationship side, which is so important in college athletics and really beyond any program. Where, like, I'll give you an example. One of our NBA teams, a couple of our NBA teams actually, they were doing some things where, one, they were collecting messages from players thanking sponsors for sticking with them and wishing them well during this tough time. Like those little touch points, when you get an NBA star player, all-star player, like a Ben Simmons saying, hey, we appreciate you guys sticking with us during this time. That's really freaking cool. And it's hard to put a value on that. Same idea with engaging season ticket holders and in college case donors, where they're getting messages from not just players, but also account reps, people that are engaging with these season ticket holders all the time, just saying, hey, we miss you. We appreciate you guys. We hope you're well. We hope you're safe. And those really personal touch points that show the team cares, show the team doesn't just think of you as another line item on the check, on the paycheck or whatever, whether it's a sponsor or a fan as well. So those are a couple of the big things, probably, is the power of those one-to-one messages, and then the ability to kind of find all this content by engaging everyone within your ecosystem, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's so many different ways that you can connect with people even through this virtual time. I think it's great that you guys are kind of like outsourcing your knowledge as people with this knowledge to spread. I mean, I think that's incredibly helpful, and it's kind of what speaks wonders to what the sports industry is that it gets so close and people get so many ideas from each other and who you can go to. And that's what I've kind of heard, is that like once you're in the sports industry, it's you're from the back end, you're all working on the same team in the sense that like you all want to get the best content out.
Totally. Especially when we work a lot at the league level. So we're like literally giving the NBA, hey, here's a deck we created of 50 examples of things that teams have done both within the NBA and beyond, so they can see, oh, that's a cool idea. Let's try that. That would work for us too. To your point, at the end of the day, you are, yes, okay, if you're in the same city and going after the same disposable income, in that case, maybe you're competitive. But if the Philadelphia 76ers have a good idea and the Clippers go, that's a pretty good idea, that's great for everyone. Everyone wins in that case. I'll tell you another trend that came out of this, which you guys will see, and this is me, again, probably being a little bit of a social media geek, is players got so much more active and comfortable with posting content. That helped our customers on the team side, because all of a sudden players were like, hey, I got this this magic device in my hand. All I got to do is put it up, take a quick video, and fans eat it up, no matter if the lighting sucks or whatever. And so you saw so many more players join TikTok because they were bored. Post that raw video because all of a sudden it was okay to post raw video. They didn't need to be produced and full and heavily edited and whatnot. So it was great to see players kind of realize that, and there's no turning back now. I think you're going to see that be the way going forward because they've seen the light.
Yeah, I mean, okay, and all great points. And I think just because we have a lot of questions to get to, I'm going to pivot a little bit. You guys touched a lot too about like how you both knew people within the industry at Penn State, at Wisconsin, just to show like, and that just shows to our point of how has networking influenced your career, and what kind of things has networking done for you?
You can kick us off, Steve.
All right, cool. Yeah, so overseeing the blue shirts, it was always important to network, and I think Delilah can attest to that. I've always pushed the networking is definitely something that's going to be important as you move into the sport industry, because everybody knows everybody. It's a very small industry, although it's very competitive. So it's definitely something that's helped me. It's helped a lot of other people that I know as well. So although when I applied for the job at Maryland, I didn't really know anybody there. So I just kind of took a chance. And after my time at Maryland, I started to know a lot more people in the Big Ten. So a lot of my friends were at Rutgers and Penn State and Wisconsin and Michigan and Ohio State. So I started to gain my network there. And then over the years, you see people moving throughout the industry. So now there's people at Eastern Michigan, Texas Tech, UCLA. They're all over the place. So I think it's very important to kind of keep up with them. It's not to make a connection and expect it to work out in a few years if you don't keep up with it. But networking is a little bit more than that. It's relationship building. It's kind of honing that skill a little bit more and more each and every time. So when you meet somebody at I don't know if you guys have talked about NACMA, which is the overarching organization for collegiate marketing, but NACMA is something that's a very good networking opportunity. You'll meet somebody there from say the New Jersey Devils or Florida State, although it's somebody you probably don't want to meet. But it's somebody that you meet outside of a normal opportunity. So networking is definitely important. It's definitely something to hone in on. Use this time right now to ask those questions to people that you've always wanted to ask questions to. Also look for people that you want to work in their position further down the line. So one of my former bosses is now at the SEC offices, and who knows, maybe I want to be in that position somewhere down the line, but how do I know anything about it? It's to ask those questions to those people. So although I know her now, I didn't know her before. So it's asking the questions and building your network, I think, is probably very, very important, especially in a competitive industry.
I will back that up and say I've known multiple people that have worked at Florida State. I almost took a job there myself way back when, and I've heard nothing but pretty bad things about their marketing comms. So I'm not even just saying that either. But no, I obviously, we're not going to get on here and say networking is not important. It's extremely important to know people in the space. And the thing is, it's not that hard. One, I will tell you that maybe I'm biased. I'm certainly biased that the sports industry, everyone is so generous with their knowledge, with their time. We all been in those shoes before, hoping to work in the industry, trying to figure out how to get a way in. And I know I've never turned down, someone that wants to pick my brain for advice, whether it's a direct message or an email or whatnot. When I came up myself, it was I'm a little bit of I'm an edge case too, where I've had a personal podcast and a blog for a long time, for 7 years. So that's been kind of an automatic way to network. You have people on your podcast, and that is a great way to meet people and learn from them and get your name out there. But also one thing I will say is, networking is not always about connecting with the vice president or the chief marketing officer. I have a lot of people that are of my same generation that now it's really freaking cool to see them become VPs and directors and senior directors. And it's been great to grow up in the space with those people as well. Because one, they're going to be at organizations that can help you. They're going to know people as well from their trips throughout the sports industry. And it's not just about like who's going to help you as well. You're going to learn from each other. You're going to have someone to talk through this very difficult industry with as well. And then as far as reaching out, you guys do have a ton of value to offer as well. It's not just about, hey, can I pick your brain? Most people will tell you, like, don't just ask for something. Don't just take. Try to give as well. What can you offer? And you guys can offer a lot. I mean, I'll tell you, whenever I speak to someone that's of your generation, it's free research for me. I'm like, what apps are you on? What kind of content do you like? Who do you follow? Why do you follow them? What are you doing during your game? Or what are you looking at? Are you on Twitch? Are you on Snapchat? Are you on TikTok? So it's cool to say, hey, I'd love to, I'd love to, spend a few minutes with you talking about the sports space and tell you about how, people at Florida, engage with sports, or people my generation engage with sports. So it's great to have that information exchange. And then lastly, and this goes kind of back to where I said around my podcast and blog, is it's free to post stuff out there, to be able to post on LinkedIn or on Twitter and say, hey, this is a really cool campaign, and then tag the people that are behind it, whether it's on Twitter or on LinkedIn. So if one of KSA's clients does something really cool, say, you can tag Jeremy and say, or Steven, say, this is awesome, and great job. And all of a sudden he goes, oh, wow, like, I know who this Delilah person is now, or I haven't heard from him in a while. Like, that's a way you can kind of keep that relationship going without doing like a half-hour phone call all the time, or getting on people's radar without them even without being so direct about it. So it's a way to sort of work your way up to a relationship and also keep a relationship humming as well.
Definitely. And especially with winter break coming up, there's going to be like a lot of downtime for us. And I think it's really important as students to kind of use that time to your advantage. Obviously, things are a little busy around the holidays, but the reason that the reason you shouldn't be networking isn't because you're scared, especially right now. Everyone's very comfortable on like the virtual space. And like, if you're nervous to reach out to someone, don't, because I'm sure everyone that you're going to talk to has been in your shoes before or met with other kids that like they are first time networkers. And that was kind of like my advice of just being an upperclassman at this point, is that like networking has been super important for me in how I've kind of obtained different roles. And all I can say is that like it really helps you develop interpersonal skills within the industry as well. Like, you know the language of the position that you're going to go into, so you're not playing catch up and like learning what a shaker bin is, for example, like working in basketball. Like, you just know from talking to your connections. And then it also helps with just like speaking to someone in a role that like you eventually want to get to, so it helps with job interviews too. So kind of just staying within the realm of like obtaining a job or an internship, or like the first step in your career, obviously networking is a big part of it. The next question that we're going to hit is kind of how to prepare for a role in marketing, and what are some skills that you guys think students should develop in that area of trying to get into that space.
Neil, do you want to go first this time?
Sure. No, we can snake it. So I first off, I was grinning constantly hearing Steven tell his story of how he came up, because I was remembering internships that I did and opportunities that I got involved in when I was in school as well. And that's like step one is get experience. There's no excuse not to have experience these days. You got there's a minor league team next door, or there's an event happening in non-COVID times. There's a college athletics department right there, or there's other local college athletics departments that would absolutely love to have your help, whether it's paid or unpaid. Ideally paid these days, of course. But that's step one. Get experience and find a way to get experience, even if it's not in a perfect role that's exactly what you want. Ideally, you're wearing a lot of caps and can help figure out what you want a little bit. And then as far as developing skills, probably the thing I tell a lot of students is find that dream job that you want in 3, 4, 5 years. Go on Indeed, Teamwork, LinkedIn, whatever it is. Although to harken back to the last question, as well, I think 30% of jobs or something like that is a stat that I saw get posted aren't actually filled by online applications. They're filled because they know someone. Or maybe it's a hiring. Maybe it was 70 and 30 the other way around. But that's just one quick aside there. But find that posting, see what skills and experience is required for that. And that is your cheat sheet. That's your, if it says you should know how to do X, Y, and Z, learn how to do X, Y, and Z. The cool thing, I'm so jealous of your generation that you can go on YouTube and learn anything in a couple days. When I was growing up and in college, YouTube was, still basically like cat videos. So you guys are in a fortuitous situation in that sense. And another thing that I would recommend as well to get really familiar with the space, and something that I did early on also when I was trying to learn social media and social media best practices, is you have a free opportunity to do research or see research every day by looking at your favorite team, looking at a team, pick a team every day or a brand every day and dig into their marketing, go to their website, go to their social media, think about what are they trying to accomplish and what's working, what do you like about what they do, what do you not like about what they do, and slowly but surely you're going to get all this expertise and knowledge just from researching and seeing all these different techniques and strategies and tactics that you're looking at. You can even look at what ads they're serving. If you go to the Facebook ads library or Twitter ad transparency center, you can see what kind of ads are they serving and what kind of messaging are they putting out there. It's really cool to be able to do that quote unquote free research that's out there every day for you guys to look at and be able to see, what those marketing teams are trying to do.
Yeah, so I would just want to piggyback off of what he was saying, but finding ways to stand out, I think, is very important. I'm off mute. Okay, cool. But finding ways to stand out is very important because you're going to be in a very competitive field, like I mentioned earlier. So it's just, how are you standing out amongst everybody else? You don't want to be a cookie cutter. You want to be somebody that knows how to do different skills, such as Photoshop, Illustrator. Being familiar with Microsoft Office isn't a bad thing because it's very useful, but it seems like it's very generic at this point. So how are you different from that? So how are you using it? Can you bring up examples? Can you have an online portfolio? Can you bring something to an interview that kind of speaks to your skills a little bit more than, say, the next person that's going to do the exact same cookie cutter model? When we were interviewing people at the Blue Shirts, it was a lot of personal skills. So how are they able to hold a conversation, and what can they bring to the program? And what we found is that we ended up getting a lot of yeses because we had such a good group of students there. But we also found a lot of people that were just not ready. So you start weeding out some of the people that aren't standing out, and then you get the core group of students there. Well, those core group of students are also competing for a job once they graduate. So they're now standing out within their university, but how are they going to stand out to everybody else in the country? So that's where the networking comes in. But also using the time that you have, being open to opportunities, I think is very important. I was known as a yes man, not for the bad way. In minor league baseball, it was just, who wants to do this? Can somebody do this? As an intern, my first game working in minor league baseball, I was dressed as Elvis because it was a theme night. So I kept saying yes to things continually. And I initially was in the ticket office, so I wasn't in marketing, but I kept saying yes to a lot of things, and it led me to a marketing department role, and that grew into my career. So just constantly being able to say yes, being open to different opportunities. Another way that translated into my career was that I was open to opportunities by moving. So in the sports industry, you see a lot of people move around. They're all over the country. I was obviously from New Hampshire, born and raised, but I went down to Maryland where I knew nobody. And then from Maryland, I moved down to Florida, bringing it back to networking real quick. James Slagle, who's I think he's the associate or assistant director of marketing, or assistant director of revenue generation. He just got a title change, but he's at Florida. He used to be at Minnesota, so that's the Big Ten connection that I had when I was applying to Florida. So I knew somebody at Florida when I was there. So that's how the networking came full circle. But I had to be open to moving down there. So I obviously didn't know anybody, wasn't really from Florida. So just being open to opportunity, I think, is very important. It definitely separates people from others in the industry. Delilah, for her credit, was open to the opportunity of different project team leads. So that's made her stand out amongst others as well. But then again, too, it's just being around, surrounding yourself with good people, surrounding yourself with a reason why you want to be there. I think that's very important in marketing. I think it's very important in life as well, is surrounding yourself with good people. With our Blue Shirt program last year, we had a retention rate of 92%, and everybody was unpaid. So that's just something very different from a paid position where people are there for, I'm just here to get paid. They're just there for the short term. And we saw with baseball ushers, we saw with some different people around campus, they had a retention rate of about 45%. So surrounding yourself with good people, surrounding yourself with the reason why, just being open for different opportunities, and then finding ways to stand out, I think, would be the reasons why everything kind of comes together there.
I love what Steven said about standing out. It's so important. Everyone wants to work in sports. Every position gets so many applications, and something just to inspire is like, what can you do? What can you be the best at? What is something that you can do better than anyone else they're going to see an application from, and something that they can't live without? Like, it's really cool. Like, I even talk about this from a social media perspective as well. When people are asking, oh, like, which platform should we be on? Should we join this one? Should we get on Triller or whatnot? And it's like, yes, you can try to be everywhere, but you're going to be mediocre everywhere because you don't have enough resources. So what can you be the best at? And that applies to any sort of job you're looking at, including sports marketing. What are you just going to blow them away with?
Yeah, definitely harping on everything that you guys just said. Like, there's so many ways to develop. We started dropping some things in the chat, Photoshop, LinkedIn Learning, like all these tools are available as a student. Now is the time as a student, you can kind of build these things and kind of impress an interviewer that you've spent the time now, you've both networked, and then you also have the skills to back it up that you've done on the back end. So there's so many things you can do now as an undergraduate. And even if you go into like grad school, like you can continue that kind of learning because it never stops. Even I imagine Steve and Neil are still learning to this day how to, like, they didn't have these different like social medias. They had to learn and adapt on the job. So the learning never stops. The meeting people never stops. So I think that it's really big, and that's what the sports industry is in a nutshell. And then I think just our final set of questions is just like some general advice that you wish you knew, both in the sense that, like, how have you found the opportunities that you've had in the sports industry? How have you found them? And then also, like, what is one thing you wish you knew leaving college as an undergrad that would have helped you early on in your career?
Do you want to take this one again, Neil?
Yeah, I think you're up technically then. Even though
all right, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how I found the jobs in the sports industry was obviously through a lot of networking, but obviously, you know, you're doing a lot of work just trying to get to that point where you feel like you can apply for a position. My philosophy was not to say yes to a job just because it's a job. So when I was coming out of school, it was around May. There was a lot of business majors that had jobs lined up that I was graduating with back in October. So they had a job lined up for almost an 8-month period for them to start right after graduation. Don't compare yourself to that because the industry is very, very different than, say, a typical one. What ended up happening in my case was I was up for a job and got an offer with McNeese State in Ruston, Louisiana. It's Western Louisiana in the middle of nowhere. So I ended up turning that down because I didn't want to just get a job to say I had a job. And then I gambled on myself a little bit. 2 weeks went by, and then I had 7 offers from Power Fives, from conference offices. There was all over the country. So it was just a way to not say yes to just the first job. You want to say yes to the right job and make sure it fits with what you want to do. When I went to Maryland, it was the #1 athletics marketing program in the country, based off NACMA scoring and what they ranked us at. So it allowed me to be a little bit more open to trying new things. Back when I learned in minor league baseball, open to different things, it allowed me to be open to things at Maryland where they want to push the creative envelope. So when it came to Maryland, there was a lot of things that they were really good at, but there was also a lot of things they weren't good at. So like budgeting and bid processing, which is, if you've ever gone to a game, you've probably received a t-shirt or a free promo item. That's usually me who's ordered them. So being really, really good, like Neil said, at one thing, that was something I was really good at, was budgeting and bid processing, making sure that we were under budget so we can accomplish all the creative goals. So I guess the exact sites you would use would probably be NCAA Marketplace or Teamwork Online, but also word of mouth too. I think that kind of covered all of your question there. I don't want to take up too much time. I know we're kind of cutting it close here, but yeah, just being open to different opportunities will definitely open some more doors.
Good stuff. And yes, NACMA is awesome. I only regret that because of COVID that we missed out on Las Vegas this past year, which would have been unreal. Although some people probably wouldn't have survived the entire conference because in Vegas. But no, there are so many things that I wish I could go back and tell myself. I think, and it differs a little bit for your generation as well, because you guys in the industry is different nowadays. I think when I was in school, I was focused a lot more on what I was very much sort of tunnel vision. I was doing a lot of work for myself. I had a sports TV show and was editor of the paper for sports, working with the sports athletics department, and wasn't really it was so busy and so about getting stuff done. I wasn't thinking as much about what skills am I developing. Luckily, I developed some skills that were useful in a role that didn't really exist in social media sports, that didn't exist when I was in school, really. But if I could go back, I would definitely have said I should take a graphic design class. I should take some more advanced analytics or statistics classes. I picked up a lot of that through osmosis and through self-teaching later on. But being more intentional about what skills you think you need to develop to excel in the space is certainly something that if I could go back, I would have come out with a ton of those skills. I mean, I had enough, but I would have liked to have been more intentional about it. Another thing too that I think is different nowadays than it was 10 years ago is you don't have to be in sports to get a job in sports. You don't have to your first job does not have to be in sports. There's a lot more people nowadays coming from the agency world, coming from the brand side and the entertainment side, and entering sports. And that's I say it's different now because it is a relatively recent phenomenon of now you're starting to see a brand, a former director of marketing or CMO for a brand come and take that same role for a sports team, because these sports organizations, these leagues, these teams are becoming more like all out brands than just live event producers. And they're trying to think about all these different ways they're touching fans and monetizing in different ways. So if you can work for a brand, you can work for an agency, you can work for any type of position that's going to develop the skills you need. As long as you're developing the skills that are going to be useful and you know what those skills are, because you will have looked at those job listings and talked to people as well in the space, that you can still work in your first job doesn't have to be in sports in order to work in sports. By the same token as well, you can leave sports and get back in. Some positions are a little bit harder to get back into than others, depending on whether it's what league you want to work in or what kind of sports job you want to work in. But certainly it's okay to jump back and forth. I think back as well that if I'd stayed in my first job out of school, I might be a senior director at a team right now instead of where I am at a startup. And not that I regret anything, but I certainly did. I made that first leap. I left that first team gig for a job at an agency in the pharmaceutical marketing space that was made me an offer I couldn't refuse. It was like 35% more pay than I was making with the Ducks. And so be mindful of what you want to, what you're really out there for. And had I stuck it out at that lower salary for a couple more years, maybe I would have gotten that bump eventually. People would have seen the light that social media was awesome. So that's important early on, is to know that yes, you can make money in the sports space. You're going to work a lot of hours depending on where you're working, but there's something really special about not having what feels like a job, when you're excited to go to work every day, when you are passionate about it, when there's a blurred line between, hey, I would be doing this even if I wasn't on the clock right now, because it's what I love to do. So that's a really cool thing as well, that if you can find that, that's the golden egg.
Definitely. And just if anyone has any questions, send them in now. And while I give you guys a few seconds to think if you do have questions, I just want to reiterate that like the point of these meetings that we're trying to give you is like the experience of hearing about like a topic in the sports industry in two separate spaces. Like Neil works for Greenfly. Steven has a lot of experience up until recently in that like college athletic space and kind of thinking like um, what can I whittle down marketing to? What are these skills that like I want to hone in on and seeing like, okay, I can learn Photoshop and how is Photoshop going to help me show off my own brand on my own Instagram, and how is Photoshop going to help me land a job in a marketing department with the Florida Gators? How is Photoshop going to help me land a job through a tech and content creation company like Greenfly? Like just showing that the backbone of sports is not just it's not really niche towards very specific roles, since a lot of skills are transferable, and just putting yourself out there and talking to other people and learning what those skills are so you're prepared when you land that first role. And last call for anyone with questions. If you don't have questions, feel free to reach out to Steven and Neil on LinkedIn, which you should be sending a thank you note anyways. So just another opportunity to kind of reach out and ask personal questions. But I don't think there are any questions. So Josh, if you want to screen share again, and we'll just wrap up the meeting.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, as Delilah was saying, these meetings are just a chance for you to learn a very brief part of a little part of each side of the industry. And there's so much more to explore out there. And it's definitely on you guys for sure to kind of do that research, because no one's going to tell you what exact spot you want to be in sports if you're, but they're out there and there's people willing to talk to you in that specific niche as well. So
cool.
Just to look forward, we have our dates for our next two meetings. Take a picture of these meetings. I'll probably take a picture and put it in like the group me and the Whitley as well, so that everyone has the dates in their calendar. So that I think that because I think attendance is huge. Like these industry executives that we've been bringing in are so knowledgeable, and I love when we have as many people as possible. So definitely take a picture of these. We're also trying to have like a winter break meeting or two, just because we're going to be home. It's a great chance to get on your computer still and meet some people as well. So we have a bunch of things in the works. Media and PR are some of our topics that we're going to try to continue with, just because they're so connected when it comes to like the certain side of the front office.
What we want to kind of bring to you guys is like a 3-part series in our upcoming meetings. So this one was marketing, kind of how to conceptualize and come up with different ideas. We're going to hit media in the next meeting, which is creating original content to kind of supplement these marketing ideas and what skills are needed if you want to kind of fulfill that role. And then finally, we're aiming for our last meeting, our officially last meeting of the semester before our winter break meetings, to be PR, which is kind of PR and communications, which is just how that content is then brought into the outside world, and how we consume content, and like kind of just the different steps on how to get there.
I'll tell you guys too and something I love telling younger people, you guys are doing marketing every day. When you post something on social media, you're basically marketing yourself. You're like, okay, what do my fans, in this case your friends, want to see? What's my goal of this post? Is it to get in comments? Should I ask a question? Do I want views? Do I want more people to follow me? And then you figure out what works, what's working for me. It really does help when I use a hashtag, or when I use emojis, I tend to get better engagement, or this effect really works. You guys are marketing all the time, making those decisions, thinking about audience, thinking about objectives, and thinking about different tactics to accomplish those objectives. So that's just something I always love to leave people with, because you guys are on social a lot.
Then also to piggyback off of what Neil said too, think about personal branding a little bit. So what do you want your personal brand to look like? How do you want to be known within the industry? So mine has always been, I want to be the creative guy that's very buttoned up as far as time management, which a lot of my network seems to know that. but how do you want to be known as? So are you on social media going out doing keg stands, partying all the time? Is that kind of what you want to do? Or do you want to be a little bit more professional and show that your work is kind of speaking for itself? So just thinking about professional development a little bit can go a little bit further as you go along your career path.
Definitely. And to kind of just supplement those two like last minute pieces of advice, just a reminder to stay informed and stay relevant. This graphic on the right hand side is just all the different types of content that you can obtain and kind of use to stay relevant and informed of what's going on in the industry. And then when you like see that like, okay, the Miami Dolphins, even though Florida opened up 100% allowed to have their stadiums packed, I read this morning on Front Office Sports that they're going to keep capacity to 13,000 people. So how can I use this information when I network? So you can go on LinkedIn, find someone that works for the Dolphins and send a quick intro note and also say like, oh, by the way, I thought it was really cool that you guys are going to follow like CDC guidelines, no matter if our state is open. So just kind of showing your network that you're informed and relevant as well. And then kind of just continuing out. Summer internship applications are starting to be released. If you're not on Whitley, get on Whitley. We've been sending a lot of different applications in that chat, and it's important for like us Gators to kind of help each other and learn from each other. So if you come across an opportunity, be sure to drop that in that channel on Whitley. And then podcasting is also on the up and coming, especially with 2021 approaching. One of a good one that's been kind of broadcasted to UF students is Life in the Front Office with Jake Hirschman as the host. He spoke at a networking event in the College of SPM or HHP last year. So he's another good person to know, and he's been having really cool conversations. And then Nate, who is also on the GSMO board, he works for the recruiting office for the Gators, and he recommended Up Close and Personnel, which kind of gives an up close and personal look at recruiting.
Yeah, and just to harp on that, like this graphic has so much, like just in our few meetings alone, like we had people who are in events who were talking about IAVM and ILEA. I don't know if they mentioned, but all the networking calls that I've been on, they always say the two of them combined. And then they just said NACTA today. And then these things on the left are very things that you can read. Athletic business also as well. So SBJ, athletic business, Axios, Front Office Sports. So this is a whole mix of things you can both read, apply to, and stay informed both conference wide and like networking wise. So I think this graphic is amazing. Take pictures of it. There's so much on each of these websites. So definitely check them out.
Yeah, Alex, Sportico is a new one as well. There's a ton of excellent podcasts out there that I listen to. Sports Business Radio, Sports Geek. Listen to mine. You guys will love it. Seriously, you'll peruse some episodes. You'll find some for sure that suit your fancy. But yeah, to echo what Josh was saying, tons of great resources out there for y'all.
Cool. And then just a last chance opportunity to sign in. And before we sign off, I just want to personally say thank you to Neil and Steven for being great guests. I think I speak for everyone when I say that we've gained some really important insight, and we're excited to kind of see where everyone takes this advice in the coming weeks. And just a reminder to everyone, don't feel scared to reach out on LinkedIn or send a follow-up, even to anyone on the GSMO board too. I know that I got a few texts this week asking different questions and asking for help, and like that's what we're here for. We're trying to be a resource that maybe you guys didn't have, or we didn't have our freshman year, our sophomore year. So just feel free to reach out, and we're always here for you guys. And again, thank you to Steven and Neil.
Yeah, and before we sign off, I just want to say like something that a lot of you underclassmen may not have known. Craig, as well as the upperclassmen, Craig Schmidt, always harped on never feel bad to reach out on LinkedIn if you have a genuine interest in the position that you're reaching out to. There's so many people out there around the country with the same position that you could hear 100 different stories about the same position. If you're interested, if you whittle down your career interest that much, or if you just want to explore different sides of the industry, there's so many people out there that are willing to get on the phone with you, make that first connection, but definitely stay in touch with them, because one phone call is definitely, you can get forgotten so easily. So use LinkedIn. There's so many people out there that are willing to connect, and we're just kind of a stepping stone at GSMO. But other than that, I think that wraps up. Thank you guys. It was really great hearing from you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks very much, guys.
Thank
And
you.
good luck with everything.